Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Darnise back with another installment of Dr. Darnise's House of Religion, Magic, and Conjure. Hey, I've been really busy, and so I've been off the channel for a minute or two or three or four. I've been doing some traveling with my book, my 40 something book that I mentioned to you all a while back. And so, in addition to teaching and everything else that I've been doing, it's just been hectic. But anyway, I wanted to come back on. I've been meaning to come back on for a while. There's so many things happening that I really wanted to address. And what really made me come on today was the conversations I've been having with my students in my African American religions class. Also, the Intro to African American Studies class. They kind of overlap in a lot of ways, as you can imagine. And today, well, recently, we've been talking about Black people leaving Christianity. And, as I have on this channel, I'm talking about alternative forms of spiritualities that African Americans have been returning to, and, including hoodoo and conjure and magic and, whatever you want to call it, African traditional religions, ATRs. And that's one conversation that we've already been having, right? But there's now a new level of the conversation where Black people are just leaving Christianity out of total frustration, anger, pain around our political system here in America. We could call this part of the becoming awakened or enlightened for Black people in the U.S. anyway, where the old institutions are falling every day, right? All the old institutions are falling away. The things that we thought, could never fall are going, including the presidency. I mean, every day it's something, right? But in particular, what we're talking about here is the institution of Christianity that is falling in terms of its, elevated place that it has been for African Americans since we came to this country, and the extreme devotion and loyalty that African Americans have shown to the Christian church and to Jesus, really, via the Christian church. So now there's so many reasons, or so many additional reasons, for Black people to question the validity of Christianity being a valid religion for us. It's not exactly the same as when it was during slavery, and I've covered that in another video about how African Americans who were enslaved became Christian. And, I talked then about, they saw a liberation element in it. They could see that when you're talking about a God who liberates people in the Bible through the Exodus and, all of that, right? We know that. But now, in the 21st century, in 2019, we're seeing so much violence against Black people once again. And in particular, I'm talking about, the Botham Jeans shooting, Amber Geiger's sentencing, and her being hugged and being given a Bible by the judge in that case. And, again, the frustration and outrage around that. Like, does Christianity require that I embrace my oppressor, my murderer? Does Christianity require that I forgive immediately and embrace those who would seek to destroy me, and then they require that I forgive them on the basis of this religion? Now, there's a lot in there, and we've been talking about this in my class now for weeks, so there's a lot to dive into. But it's another reason why Black people, especially young Black people, I mean, I'm working with Generation Z. We're beyond the millennials now. Millennials, have their own thing, and they think that it's all about them. Well, the younger generation is now coming to adulthood. They're the ones who are undergrads right now. They're the ones who really inspire me in very surprising ways sometimes, because they're not as edgy as the millennials. If you're a millennial yourself, sorry, but y'all have this reputation of being, edgy, critical, and not necessarily that things don't deserve criticism. Sometimes things do. A lot of times things deserve criticism. But when you come to the table and you're just criticizing and you don't have a plan B, you don't have a suggestion, you don't have the next leg of it ready yet, then that's not really received so well. So what I'm finding in Gen Z are young people who are ready for they're ready to take action and make something happen now. Also, I think of the young woman Greta, who's Swedish, the 16-year-old environmentalist. The young people are really making the difference in our society right now. Young Black people in my classes or wherever are telling me, I'm not going to anybody's church. I'm not trying to be in anybody's religion. It doesn't even dawn on them to do that. So people who are thinking that, one day the country's going to be Christian again, or people are going to reclaim their Christian values, it's never going to be back what it used to be centuries. Even, I'm sorry to say centuries ago, but even just decades ago, it's never going to be that. And I can tell you, I work with young people and they're done. The institutions are falling around us for a reason. It's time for us to do something different. It's time for us to, I guess, either reformat what religion is or let the whole thing go. And I, for one, don't think we're really going to let the whole thing go. I think our religions have to change. There's a book written by he was an Episcopal bishop, John Shelby Spong. If you want to go to Amazon and search his books, he wrote a lot of really good books, but one of them was called Why Christianity Must Change or Die. And I think he wrote that in the 90s. So he was well ahead of his time. But why Christianity must change or die, and he could see it coming then. He was a white Episcopal bishop at the time, but he could see, we can't just hold on to these stories from the past and expect that younger generations are going to stay attached to these stories. They're just not. And I can tell you they're not. They're so hungry when I start telling them about Kemet and Africa and the black pharaohs who came from the Sudan, what we now call the Sudan. They're so starving for it. And I drop it into every lecture where I possibly can, regardless of the actual day's topic. But just to start familiarizing these young people with the idea of ancient African civilizations, the start of human culture or civilization well before Western civilization, 350 BCE. That's way late. We know African civilizations existed as far back as at least 3500 BCE, which I've discussed before. So I just want to come on and say, Black people are leaving Christianity, and some are finding their way to African traditional practices, to spiritual practices, indigenous practices. This is Indigenous Peoples Day today, actually, as I record this. And so there's a sense that people want to return to something that's meaningful to them and let go of the thing that's been imposed upon them from external people, external forces, external cultures. And I guess I'm just so motivated from my students today that I just wanted to come on here and make that video and say it is really a true thing that, we're not going to have African American allegiance to Christianity the way that we've seen it in the past. And I suppose in the South, here in the U.S., it might be different or more slow coming, that kind of change. Because I'm in California, everything here is so way progressive and liberal. But I expect it to be the same, similar, in the not too distant future, because as we see every day, our old institutions are falling. Younger people are not attached to these things, y'all, and they're hungry for the next. They're already looking, they're ahead of me. They're asking me about, tell me more about the African, tell me more. What is Conjure? What is Hoodoo? Where is this? They are so hungry for it. So rest assured, I'm in the classroom giving them, as much as I can. And I'd like to have your feedback. I'd like to say thanks for hanging in and waiting for my next videos. I appreciate you watching. I would appreciate if you would share, like, subscribe, all that. But also leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. What's been your experience in terms of Black people being tired of Christianity, as it were. Like Malcolm X said years ago, He didn't want to be part of a religion that required him to turn the other cheek against an enemy that would oppress him. He said this, obviously in the 60s. And so here we are. So, all right, I'm going to leave you with that. Again, like, share, subscribe. The channel is growing. We're almost at 1,000 people, which is like amazing because I wasn't really thinking of a particular number. Well, until this year. This ended maybe around springtime. I started thinking, wow, I could really get to 1,000. So we're getting close to that. So I appreciate your subscribing and sharing and all of that. All right, bye for now.